Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5 Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about things that we can do, boots on the ground, that help restore or save the church. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, secutor in principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. I want to do an episode on this because I think, I've mentioned this in previous episodes. I get frustrated and I have consternation about the kind of doomsday, apocalyptic mindset that's out there about the church. And I think this is largely perpetuated by private YouTube Catholic channels that push these things. And I don't think I need to mention names. I did a live stream, I think probably the last live stream I did, which was a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, where I named names of YouTube channels that I think do more of a disservice to the typical Catholic than good. And so I'm of the mindset, and I apply this to news, I apply this to Catholic news. There's no point to keep up with this stuff. There's no point to be on most Catholic YouTube channels that have anything to do with reporting Catholic news, because most of it is always one of two things. Francis did this thing badly, or Vigano said this, right? And they do this because if you look at search engine optimization and so forth, there's more money to be made when you have these keywords in there. They'll say it ostensibly it's because they want to bring you the truth and they care about you, but a lot of it is like the video, subscribe, buy their products, buy their books, and so forth. So I'd be very wary of that. And none of that's constructive. Living in this fear of the church being an apostasy, possible apostasy, with the leadership, the curia, creating a new world order religion, or whatever it is. How does it benefit your life to be mired or imbued in this kind of apocalyptic, negativistic, pessimistic future? It doesn't really help you. You'll say that, well, it's good to be in the know, but you can't affect change. So even if it's true, you can't affect change. We've talked about this, right? So if I say anything that is even remotely pro-Francis, then the mad rat trads think I'm a modernist, right? But if I say anything that is a little to the left, then I'm attacked by the radical right. If I say anything that's remotely conservative, then I'm attacked by the radical Catholic left. It's just like you can't win it. So if I have the mindset like, honestly, who cares if the church is an apostasy, because there's nothing I can do about it. And as I mentioned before in a video, traditionalists should spend more time in prayer and less time worrying about the 3 days of darkness, which again is private revelation. It's not public revelation. And other apocalyptic things and end times eschatology worries. What's the point of worrying about these things? We have a blueprint and a guide as to what we need to do to get to heaven. And none of it honestly has to do with Rome. You're like, they can change the words of consecration, and they did back in 1970. There's people who never received the Eucharist that are in heaven. All the Old Testament prophets never received the Eucharist. They're in heaven. So even if it's true, first of all, you have invincible ignorance, so you think you're receiving the Eucharist even if it's not. But even if you go down that road, again, what's the point? So what can we do to affect change and to improve the church? Well, as always, it always starts at grassroots level. Instead of spending 6 hours on apocalyptic Catholic content or on Reddit Catholic stuff, why don't you go and volunteer at your parish? Why don't you go teach CCD? I teach Sunday school for 10th graders. Why don't you work at a soup kitchen? Why don't you do a Bible study? Why don't you be the change you want to be? And I hate using that phrase because that's from the left, but it's true. What's the point of whining and complaining and being worried about the future, and worst of all, have this sin of pride and like, I know for sure the church is in apostasy, even though, I'm in small town Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and I've never been to Rome. I know for sure. It's the sin of pride, right? And that's something that the radical left and the radical right of the Catholic Church have in common. I know better. So why don't you do something constructive? And no, being constructive is not trying to tell all your Catholic friends or sharing apocalyptic Catholic content with all your friends and telling them that if they believe in the Novus Ordo Mass being okay, that they're wrong, and then you shove all that radical right content. And again, it's not that I don't disagree with that stuff. If you look at my channel, it's extremely traditionalist. But if I'm not Sedevacantist, then I'm a modernist sellout. And that's how the Sedevacantist see it. So you can't win with people. You can't win with people. So do something about it. Aside from doing your daily prayer, we have an episode like 15 little things you can do, little Catholic things you can do throughout your day to make your day very Catholic. So instead of, aside from your prayer, your rosary, or your angelus, or your divine mercy, or your liturgy of the hours, help poorly catechized Catholics. Be in catechesis in your local parish or in your diocese. Instead of spending 5 hours on Reddit, go do the works of mercy that we're all expected to do. Either the corporal work, so go to the soup kitchen, feed the poor, help those who are struggling, or the spiritual works, informing the ignorant, helping those who are in doubt, praying for the dead. And I get it. Some of you are like, well, I am going to inform the ignorant by telling them all these things that are what? Theory, hearsay, and speculation. You're not sharing them the dogmatic deposit of faith. You're teaching them your theories about Francis being this and Vigano being that and blah, 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 blah. But those are just theories. You're not really helping people. If anything, you're going to undermine their faith by shoving that down their throat. So guys, in closing, let's affect change on the local level. Let's affect change by educating the faith with your children. We know 6% of Catholic kids are going to be practicing their faith in 10 years after college, after high school, I should say. So work on your kids. Work on your spouse. Teach, evangelize, practice apologetics, teach them the groundwork. Be local. Work on the diocese level. Help out at your parish. These are actually positive, constructive works of mercy that will actually help you on your road to getting to heaven. And it's a much more productive use of time than spending all your time on apocalyptic Catholic content. And I know, look, some of you are so obstinate that you're not going to hear anything I say because you have the sin of singularity, as Father Rupperger says over at Sensus Fidelius. I know better. I'm Neo from the Matrix. Only I see the truth. And then you surround yourself with the echo chamber of the people who think the exact same thing as you do. And you just spend all your time thinking that you're smarter than every other Catholic, better than every Catholic, more knowledgeable than every Catholic because you know the truth, while you're not spending any time doing the works of mercy and praying for yourself, praying for humility. Because remember, prayer is not to change God, it's to change us. So let's do tangible steps that we can do to improve the church, instead of just lamenting and complaining and whining about things that are going on in Baltimore or in Rome that ultimately you can't affect and you can't change. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.